educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here is your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
I thank you very much for tuning in today. I have someone that I believe that we could all relate to today. He is a biochemist. He has an MBA graduate, stands as a beacon of resilience and transformative success. He comes from humble beginnings, being on welfare, which some of us can relate to a father being in the prison system. I mean, I can relate to that also. But he's transformed his challenges into entrepreneurial triumphs. He founded Apex Customs, evolving it from a garage startup to a multi-million-dollar enterprising, selling it and several other businesses in under a decade. That's quite an achievement. A lot of us would love to have that. But beyond his business milestones, his heart beats for the underdog, having selflessly assisted over 100 new or struggling entrepreneurs without charge. He's a living testament to the power of giving back. And a lot of us, we are challenged with that, with giving back, especially just from the heart. A lot of us want to make sure that we get a buck out of it or something else, not understanding like that will be reciprocated on another level. But I thank y'all very much for listening and tuning into That Whenever podcast. Introduce to all of you Tyler. Tyler, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Maurice, pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. It always makes my skin crawl slightly when my bio's read. I didn't write it, and so I'm like, I wonder if people think I wrote those things about myself. It's like, which is really uncomfortable, but at the same time, I appreciate the warm welcome.
Sure, no problem. I think a lot of times we as individuals, we don't like to hear about ourselves. We don't like to critique ourselves. I know for myself, I stray away from being in front of the camera a lot. So there's a lot of challenges that we all deal with.
Yeah. No, I mean, the camera's been one of the biggest things in my life that I've had to go overcome as far as a fear, It's like, and I've done some crazy stuff in my life that people think I should have been afraid of, I've almost died overseas like 6 times doing random stuff, It's like, but that didn't scare me. This darn camera scares me.
and that's funny. That's funny for you to face something that a lot of us don't want to do, and being able to overcome that. But something as small as this camera makes a world of a difference.
It's so crazy. It's been such a struggle, but it's like defined my current life dealing with that struggle. And like a quick tidbit here is like, I would say to people, you have to check your heart. And if your heart is in the right place on something and you fear it, then that is your ultimate answer to grow. It's like, and so like, I want to say that again to clarify it. It's like, if you fear something, you're afraid of it, but then you check your heart and you're like, if I'm going to do this action, is my heart in the right place in it? And if the answer is yes to both of those questions, that's the ultimate to growth. That's the ultimate that you're on the right path. You cannot grow without fear, right? And so since I fear the camera, and since I know I'm trying to use the camera to do good things, I even have a charity. It's the 501(c) that uses the camera to monetize charitable content, to give money to those foundations. It's like, since I'm doing these things out of my heart and I fear them, I have to do it to grow. And I've grown a lot doing that. So
in this, we think about the underdog, right? Yeah. A lot of us as business owners, entrepreneurs, those that's just starting out, we get a little too nervous because of those individuals that don't have that fear, of something as small as the camera. So why are you focusing so much on the underdogs and want to help them out so much?
It's my hippie hypothesis for the world. And I explain it a couple different ways, but maybe the one that hits the hardest is, can you imagine, like, we have a foundation that focuses on age-out foster care. So I'm really involved with that system. It's like, there's some crazy stats I'm going to drop really quick. It's like 80% of the people incarcerated on death row in California are from the foster care system. 60% of those that were sex traffic victims, foster care system. It is something that, even if you don't have a heart for kids, which I have a huge heart myself for kids, and most people do, even if you don't have a heart for kids, think about society, right? And the impacts there. But it's like, so Elon Musk is a billionaire, right?
Right.
And my hypothesis is if Elon Musk had grown up in the foster care system, it wouldn't look like it does. And so basically I promote, protect, encourage underdogs because they come from bad systems with adversity, right? And overcoming adversity is the key indicator for success. You just have to help them get past that mentally, especially in those youth years. But then what do? Then they get their success, which I like to help them do any way I can, right? And now they change the things that they were frustrated with. So my hypothesis is bringing more underdogs to success changes the world because they change the systems they were frustrated with.
So
we need more underdogs making it.
Oh no, we do. But here's a statement that had come to my mind. You know, like you stated that your father was in the prison system. Mine was too. You know, and mine because he didn't know how to adjust coming back from the Vietnam War. You know, so there was a whole lot of things that he was dealing with. And a lot of times when you hear that and you experience that, people are telling you because your father is here, you're not going to be anything more than this. You know, and I think that's one of the challenges that we have to deal with, Tyler, that sometimes we keep hearing these things where I like the name of the show is That'll Never Work. You know, these type of things we got to get over. So how would you encourage someone to get over that hump of whatever they might have been told negatively?
I mean, Maurice, the same thing happened to you that happened to me. I'm certain of it. You know, it's like I got told I would never amount to nothing in school. People who knew who my father was, you know, like I was the poor kid. So anything that got stolen, I didn't steal it. Anything that got stolen, I got blamed for it, right? I'm the poor kid, the son of, you know, and like I got told by teachers and principals and stuff like, Tyler, you're going to go the same way as your dad, right? And there was a point in my life I probably started to believe that, you know, and so like, that is the key indicator there is like, and especially in your youth, it's tough. I managed to, like I say, Mr. Magoo my way through that period where it's like, you know, narrowly avoiding disaster basically until I finally found out I could do anything I wanted in this world, you know? And so that is the tough part though, flipping that switch when you've been told otherwise. And I can tell you underdogs right now, like I spend a lot of time and I get a lot of hate for it, telling you how you're more likely and can have better tools for success than the kid that was raised, I call it the golden couch. You know, it's like the kid raised on the golden couch, you actually have more tools, but the world is not telling you that. They're telling you your father did this, you grew up on welfare, you're never going to make it, right? The second you could flip that switch in your brain, you actually realize it's like, well, I grew up off nothing. I had my first job at 13 years old. You know, I was like ripping concrete with a sledgehammer and loading it into a backhoe at 13 years old. I've had a full-time job, full-time work, full-time school, 25 years, 30 years. All that prepared me perfectly for my first business. I didn't see it that way at the time because I thought business was for somebody with a rich dad to show them the way, right? You know, it's like, so the second you flip that switch, you're like, I can have this. And not only that, but I built my work ethic. I'm used to living off nothing. My first business was started, and I get a little embarrassed to say this. My first business was started with $4,000. I lived in a dirt lot with no electricity and no water, right? It's like I was willing to sacrifice that. You think that the kid on the couch, rich kid, would sacrifice that? No, he's got the couch, right? We don't have the couch. So we have to make sacrifices. We have to work harder. But the thing about your life and overcoming adversity, you know, the last point I want to make on this too is like, so people can see the tools that they have is like, do you think a business problem is a big problem compared to some of the problems we dealt with in our youth? When we're dealing with, and I usually don't like to give examples because I'm still struggling with my past a little bit, but it's like, and I don't want to out family members and things like that. But it's like when you've dealt with some horrible, horrible stuff in your youth and you're going over it, you know, that's a problem you dealt with. That's an adversity you overcame. When you get to your business problem, people you always used to ask me, it's like, Tyler, you seem so calm when this awful, disastrous stuff happens in business. It's like, yes, it sucks. I just have to figure it out. It's nothing as bad as like problems I dealt with in my youth. So I hope I didn't go on a rant there.
Oh, no,
but
you good.
I really want underdogs to know that they have tools that they don't know. And the world will actually hate you for it in a way too. They will tell you that these aren't tools. They are tools. You know, you don't need it. You know, like the second you build something for yourself, then you're in that winning mindset and you can go wherever you want, you know.
So what, I mean, I have, it's a comment, not so much a question. But who's Mr. Magoo? For those of you who
Yeah.
don't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know who he is. There might be a lot of you who don't know who Mr. Magoo is. But I really want to ask you a real question. Because you're talking about tools. A lot of times we feel as though those things are outside of our reach. They're outside of our purview because they're not, as you stated, they're not told to us. They're not shown to us. So something as simple as opening up a book,
Yeah.
opening up
Yeah.
YouTube, basic tools. So what changed for you to realize like, hey, these tools are out here, even though I've been hearing all this negative stuff all these years. What changed for you? What was that pivotal moment for yourself?
It's so tough to define it, Maurice, and I'd love to give it to people. Like you mentioned in the intro, I helped 100 people. I'm probably up to 1,000 by now, that I've helped. And I would love to I would easily give that, right? Basically, like my whole life now consists of helping the underdogs. If I could tell you that pivotal point, but I think like trying to find a win and knowing you can do it. Like seeing it possible is what I call it. It's like I worked at some awful jobs working around really rich people, and that helped me so much. Number one, like I literally got called to help at jobs, right? I was mistreated. So that gave me motivation. That gave me a chip on my shoulder. I've never been treated very fair, And so it's like, that was great, right? For motivation. The other thing is I saw the normalcy in successful people, right? They were no smarter than me. They were no better than me.
Right.
In fact, I knew I could outwork them. And I knew I had dealt with things that most people hadn't. So I was good at overcoming obstacles. It's like, so make that switch and find little wins. Your little win could be like, at first, like I was a valet in the morning and I bartended at night. I was working a ton, right? And I was going to school at the same time.
Wow.
But like I would find the wins in like, okay, I'm going to do as good as I can in school because they're telling me I can't do anything, right? And I would find the little wins in like, hey, sir, when I get your car, you've been rude to me. You've treated me unfairly. Watch this. I am going to be the fastest at getting your car you've ever seen. And that was my revenge. Like it's 125 degrees here in Arizona. And you should see the parking lot I used to sprint, but I was the fastest valet you'd ever seen in your life. Sir, I am going to get your car so fast. And you know what I was building? I was building myself. He was getting his car faster. And some people would say that as like, silly on my part, but I was building my work ethic for my future. It wasn't for him. It was for me. Right. And so like, I think you have to start getting those little wins. And like, for me, my first big win, I think, was going to college, which I was afraid of. And because I was told I was stupid my whole life. So I didn't think it was something I thought I could do. So I went, I dared it. And I did actually really well. And I did well enough that I decided, you know what? Screw these guys. What is the hardest degree you got at this institution? Give me that, right? And now I'm approaching like hard things, It's like, so biochemistry was the biggest name I could think of. That's why I got a degree in biochemistry. It's like, so then like that was a win, right? That developed some confidence, It's like, so you have to start finding those little wins. And that could be being the best employee where you're at, getting a degree if that's what your road consists of. You don't have to, but like make these little wins happen. And then the second your gumdrop in your head shifts, like I can do anything these guys can do, there's where it's at. That's the moment,
Right.
And Mr. Magoo, so I don't miss that question, he is this old man that can't see, and he's walking blindingly through life, right? And these awful catastrophes happen to him, but just when he's about to like meet his demise, like a bridge swings in the way, or he's about to walk off a building, he doesn't realize that something swings in the way and saves his life. And that's how I've defined my life for a long time, is like a lot of bad stuff happens to me, but I always come out all right, And so, but now like there's a reframe there too. It's like that made me feel like luck. Bad luck, good luck, whatever, It's like, now I'm like, no, I'm not Mr. Magoo. I'm Rocky. Because no matter what you throw at me in life, I keep walking forward. And the scariest person on the planet is the one that keeps walking forward. So reframe.
Right. I think a lot of those things, like you said, we kind of view those moments where it looks like we're about to fall off the bridge, fall off the cliff, and something comes to pick us up.
Yeah.
We don't count that as a win a lot of times. Like you said, it might be luck or whatever it is. But, it just... sometimes the wind changes a little bit, or maybe your mindset changed for a hot second. You get what I mean? And now you're looking at life from a different purview, another space. But some of the things that I want to talk about I want to go back to tools for a second. I think one of the strongest tools that you talk about is serving people. I think that's a tool that a lot of us don't use, and we don't realize how important that is, and how that is reciprocated to us, back to us in a lot of different ways. And we don't count those as wins a lot of times. But
Yeah.
In those moments of serving people, how has that, from a very young age, how has that tool progressed your entrepreneurial journey? Because because we all got to serve. So how has that progressed you?
Maury, it's great that you asked that question. I'm actually getting goosebumps a little bit because like I was thinking about this in the truck this morning on my way here. It's like I originally went places that I never thought I could go from anger, right? I was so mad that and I'm not an angry person, like I've trained martial arts for 20 years. Like you'll never catch me in a street fight. I get it out in the gym, right? And like you'll never see me without a smile on my face quite often, right? It's like I'm not an angry person, but I use the things that I'm angry about and I burn through them to find my success. And I did that for years and it worked so good. But there becomes a point when you can only burn anger for so long. And, I remember the very first time I got asked to go speak, and it was a group of kids that I get along with great because they're first generation college kids, like usually from bad neighborhoods, tough upbringings, usually a parent in prison, that sort of stuff. And I get asked to go speak to these kids. And I wrote this speech and it like, I don't know, it came out of me in like 20 minutes. And like, I didn't change a single word. I went and gave it. And people stood up at the end, but this one kid I remember in particular, he stands up and he goes, "Tyler, I don't have a question for you." He's like, "But I do have a comment." He's like, "I'm going to watch you because I can't wait to see what you do next." And that changed my life because now I think about every time like I'm getting defeated, every time like the world is against me, every time there's a tough problem, it's like that kid's watching me, I better get to the next thing, it's like, and Maurice, we're in an interesting spot because not very many people, you know what the stat is around people whose parents were in prison and them going, you and I are like a huge statistic.
Right.
It's like 98% or something crazy.
Yeah.
So, and like I started thinking like, why aren't enough people talking about this? And like, I realized there's not enough people making it, right? There's not enough people making it out of there. And so it's like, we got to help them make it out of there. And part of it is getting on this stupid camera that scares the crap out of me and showing them somebody's road that has made it, right? Because if we never read a story of somebody that made it, we don't think we could either, right? Seeing it possible.
And a lot of times, we think winning, right, or helping or serving, again, you from a sports perspective, oh yeah, they're winners, they're world champions, right? People just, for those of you who are will be listening to this, just so happened the NBA championship just happened, and Boston just won, right? So they're lifted up, they're put in the spotlight. And a lot of times we don't see ourselves in those spaces, in those places, especially being, called Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Tyler, I'm going to sit back and watch you, and so we don't know where we're going to be lifted up at in any situation because we see how the world lifts up other individuals.
Yeah. And that, to me, service is just an obligation. I think success is an obligation. I really see it that way. It's just logical to me. It's like when I put it out there, I get a lot of hate for this. It's like, if you drive the Ferrari and you've never done anything for the world, shame on you. I'm not saying don't have the Ferrari. If you've worked, earned it, you want it, like reward yourself. But if you've never done anything for anybody, I'm sorry, there's not a single self-made person on this planet. I started out in a dirt lot with $4,000 and nobody helped me. I'm still not self-made. I grow up in a country that allows me to do whatever I want with my life, right? I had people that were clients that loved me and that supported my business. It's like I didn't do it all alone, and nobody's self-made. Nobody is self-made, and I think you have an obligation once you make it. The world is a bowl of resources, right? Some of us get more than others, right? And spread that around a little bit. That's why I help underdogs too. It's like, that's the key to income disparity. More underdogs starting businesses. Let's chop away at those big companies, right?
Right.
So.
And it's funny you say self-made because a lot of us don't really know what that means, really, or we have an opinion about it. But as you stated, we don't make it by ourselves. We didn't write our own checks. We didn't write, we didn't pay ourselves necessarily, so a lot of times we get caught up in these terms, these phrases that throws us all the way off. And now we are apprehensive to get in front of the camera. We're apprehensive to start a podcast. We're apprehensive to find out what the tools are because of that, because we don't feel as though we have the machine behind us.
And that's what's tough, Maurice, because it's like, I didn't start Google. I didn't start Facebook. I didn't start Tesla. You know, it's like, who am I to get on and talk about business, you know? But here's the thing. It's like, what is it? What's the stat? Usually I have it off the top of my head. Like 99% of business is small, you know? It's like, so actually my story is more relevant than any of those stories because I started with zero, which everybody on the planet can start with zero, right? And then I built something from it. And I built it from pain. That's it. I'm willing to suffer. And so people out there every day, where's the work-life balance? I'm sorry, underdogs. You don't get that. Put that in your head right now. You know, there's no work-life balance. That comes years later. Just put that out of your head. And that's why I get especially passionate too. It's like, Maurice, our audience is, you know, like the guy out there that's sitting in his Ferrari says, buy my course for $100, you know, and you'll be a millionaire tomorrow. He is not speaking to the rich kid because the rich kid goes over to his dad, right? And says, what do you think of this? He's like, oh, that's BS. Do this, right? So they're speaking to our people, our underdogs. Our underdogs are paying for this $100 course and it's getting them nowhere. They're buying off on the wrong thing. Buy off on the hard work, right? Buy off on the hard work.
Wow, Tyler, man, I appreciate you coming on. So let me ask you one last question. Where can they find you to talk to you about these tools, about, you know, understanding hard work and perseverance and, you know, overcoming this idea of being an underdog? Where can they find you and talk to you about that?
You know, like, and that's the thing. Any of you can have it. You just got to be willing to do that, right? Do the hard work. You know, I'm never going to tell anybody. This morning, I'm telling somebody, I'm like, I'm sorry. That's not real. You know, it's like, here's what's real, embrace what's real, and you'll get there, right? And so, like, if you want to connect with me, the easiest way is @TylerUriah on my Instagram. I even dive into, like, the unwanted comments once in a while to make sure nobody's in there, you know, screaming for help in a life raft. But we have a facility here in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, there's a free desk space. Come in and work in our desk space. Start your business anytime you want. I will help you with an LLC for free. I will help you with your accounting for free. I will help you with your marketing. I will help you build a website. I wish I had this. Like, and not only that, but I've done this multiple times and I've advised for politicians and celebrities and billion-dollar companies. Like, I am on the other side of the wall willing to help you for free. Come in and use the space. We do seminars every couple months, absolutely free. You know, like our technology company is mostly like my area of focus. And basically we're working on, right now we do a lot of stuff one-on-one. We help people and we're building out technologies to then bring that to a bigger audience, right? And streamline small business. I want the work to be the hard work. I want the rest of the BS to go away because once again, it's an unequal amount of underdogs that are disparaged by the red tape that shouldn't be there.
Wow, Tyler, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. You know, you offer a lot of information. And if you are in the Arizona area, please look him up. Of course, his information will be in the show notes. But Tyler, I got to ask you my world famous question. I ask everybody, man. My would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road? It's funny, he's shaking your head. Like,
yeah, because I still don't have the answer. And the thing is, it's like my science mind is going crazy. You know, it's like, so like, and I'm thinking about this too. It's like, we have a podcast for bullied kids. My MMA training partner and I, he was number 5 middleweight in the UFC. So we started podcasts basically we tell stories of bullied to triumph, kind of what I'm talking about today, underdogs that can make it, you know? And so like, cause they do amazing things. And so we talk about this all the time. Cliff regrets nothing. Nada. Glad everything happened in life. Tyler, if he had a time machine, would be blasting that button to rewind every other. Oh, I forgot to say hello to that person. You know, I didn't do this perfect. I didn't do that person. And so, like, when I'm thinking 3 doors, I'm thinking doors closed, right? When I'm thinking 2 paths, I could always go to the other path.
Okay.
So now I believe there's a certain point, especially when you have business strategy, you have to go to a certain extent and pick a direction. That's why the paths make sense. I've got to pick a direction in here, but I don't have to stay on that path forever. Now, there's probably a way to get back to the other one. It actually means going backwards. I hate going backwards, but that's the challenge of it, right? And so, like, I think I would choose the paths, you know, because the door probably closes. The path is still usually open if I want to go back through the hard work.
So when you think about the past, no one says that there's another fork down the road. You don't have to come back if you don't want to. You know, And I'm gonna tell you, and I'll give you some idea what other people have said. Some people want to look at the fork and look at, which way everybody had gone and go the opposite way, right?
Yeah.
Some people have decided that they wanted glass doors or acrylic doors so they could see, what's behind those. But the one answer that I thought was the most interesting was the Star Trek answer, where there's more responses to that question than just those two. There's more options out there. And I thought, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I never considered that. I can't remember the term. Like I remember it, then I forget it. Like, but I never considered that, hey, you know what? Yes, I'm asking this question, and it's just a general question. Again, no parameters, right? Yeah. But this one individual, he said, no, I don't accept those two options because there's another option out there. And it's probably going to be easier than those other two that you give me. So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's a psychology experiment in some ways. And it also gives you your lens, right? It gives people's lens on the world. Right. I think all of a sudden you can tell a lot about a person by the way they probably answer that question.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been asking this question for a good 3 to 4 years straight.
Smart. Yeah.
And, and it's never been the same answer. I mean, a lot of the same choices, but the way people interpret their answer is vastly different. It's not the same.
No, I love it. I'll probably come up with a better answer later on this afternoon. Wish I had the time machine, come back and wish I could say the answer again, in this like beautifully profound way. But today, that's the answer you get.
All right. That's cool. That's cool. Well, Tyler, man, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. My absolute pleasure. Like I said, folks, don't hit your head on the wall with this stuff. Mm-hmm. If we can help you, we want your win. Your win is what changes the world, in my opinion.
Oh, most definitely. I appreciate that. And I hope y'all will continue to follow That Will Never Work podcast. Of course, all of Tyler's information will be in the show notes. I thank you very much for listening today, and I will talk to y'all a little later.
And check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?